It's everything, but it isn't.
Okay.
That's what I like writing about.
Yeah.
When you think you know it, you know nothing. The name of Herbie Hunter came about as a mix of my own name, one of my own names, and now people know I'm actually Herbert. Nobody dare call me that, and they certainly won't call me Herbie. But it came about because I saw myself in this youngster of 14 years old that I decided to write about. And it's called mystical realism. This is the Herbie Hunter series, and Herbie Hunter, the name Hunter, it's got connotations to somebody who seeks something, goes after something, hunts it down. And interestingly, his father was a spook in the CIA in America and was posted in Washington, D.C. And somehow he died. And he left a will to his wife and his son Herbie, who was the only child, that there was nothing left. They had no money, and the only place for them to go was to his mother's house, which was Grandmother Beatrice, and that was in Nevada. So they went from this luxurious accommodation in Washington, D.C., where he stayed and he grew up, and he had all these amazing electronic gadgets and star scopes on the screen and all sorts of things like that, to this old rickety house, double-story house in the deserts of Nevada where his grandmother stayed. So Herbie Hunter, it's a mix of my name as Herbie, and the Hunter part, it just seemed to be a nice alliteration, HH. And I'm also a double H, so it all seems to fit together. The Herbie Hunter series is really for Gen Z, Generation Z, and they are the age group that's disputed, the generation rather, that's disputed to be 1994 to 95 to 2011, but latest estimates have it at 1997 till 2012. And why I took such an interest in Gen Z was because both my children are Gen Z. I got married very late in life. I got married at the age of 40. My daughter was born a year later in 2004, and my son was born in 2009, and they both fit perfectly into Generation Z. Why did I choose to do Generation Z? Well, I had two young children, and I felt that the world was changing far too drastically for a lot of young people, and they didn't have a good grounding, and they lost sort of their way, and have lost their way that I've seen, in terms of how the world's changed, and many moral issues that they face, peer pressure, schooling, varsity, all sorts of things, going to college. They don't really know who they are. And it's not to say that other generations knew who they were either, but I think there's so much pressure on Gen Z because of the changing technology in the world that has forced them to be the digital generation. And more's the pity for Alpha generation that's following them, because they're the ones who are going to be fully immersed into everything electronic. So for me, it was really about Gen Z is, what can I do to help? What can I give them guidance in? Just something that I could offer. And Herbie Hunter came about by offering them redemption, eventual redemption in life, from possibly a very tough life to things can actually make sense in the end once you start thinking about them and once you start taking the right decisions. And that's really what Herbie Hunter's focus is about. It's got a lot more in it than that. There are spiritual dark forces, there's spiritual light forces, and then there's Herbie Hunter himself, who he doesn't know who he is. So it starts off at the age of 14, where Herbie is in middle school in America, and he's suddenly thrust into a new life because his father's apparently passed away in some tragic accident, and him and his mother have to leave and go off to his father's mother. Now Herbie has to suddenly change his whole way of life. He doesn't have all the things he used to have. He's got an old cell phone that's barely working, and all his fancy stuff was given up in the sale and the auction of the house that they had in Washington, D.C. And now he's left with the vast Nevada desert in front of him. And all strange things start to happen in his life, and he doesn't have an idea of how they suddenly came about. And now he's seeking answers. He's not the brightest. He can make a lot of mistakes. He does make a lot of mistakes. But he's quite a likable person. But he's also very naive. And in his naivety, I think I see a lot of myself in the way I looked at life and experienced life to where I am today. And if there's anything I can do to help somebody, maybe to share an experience and change their thought pattern about what they should do or what they shouldn't do, what they might do, what they might not do, will always help. So that's sort of the whole idea of Herbie Hunter. And I didn't say it previously, but this whole Herbie Hunter series is actually called The Last Generation. And there's a lot to that. And that will be discovered in the book. The reason I wrote Herbie Hunter was because I believe that Herbie Hunter has got a lot to teach young people and older people. And although I write for Gen Z, I'm writing for Generation X, I'm writing for Gen Z, I'm writing for Generation Alpha. I'm writing for basically everybody, because anybody who picks this book up is not necessarily Gen Z, but this whole series, which is at the moment a trilogy plus one, and I'll explain that now, is that they could easily see themselves in the book. They could adapt their own situation to what's happening in each book, in fact the series. So the very first book is called Herbie Hunter and the Twisted Furies. The second one is called Herbie Hunter and the Fathomless Legion, and the third one is called Herbie Hunter and the Genius Executioner. Then there's a spin-off book that relates to Herbie Hunter, which is called The Deep State Interchange, and it's all about what we have just been through with COVID-19 and the lockdowns around the world, and the truth behind it all, and where these things are coming from, and why they're actually happening. And it's a very, very realistic take on what has happened to everybody. So Herbie Hunter is possibly one of those breakthrough series that could stop at a trilogy, because every single book that I've written, it can stop at that point and you will be left wondering. So it's left on a cliffhanger, but it goes on to the next book and it starts all over again. So it could be almost never ending. Herbie Hunter has encounters with otherworldly situations that he didn't believe existed, and he still doesn't believe it exists even in book 3, and yet he's actually fighting this otherworldly situation. And without giving away too much, I think that you would find out for yourself exactly how Herbie Hunter deals with each situation, and where he makes mistakes, and some very bad ones, and where he does the right thing unknowingly sometimes. So it's full of twists and turns. I never like giving away the plot, and it's never what you think it is. It's always something different. So Herbie Hunter will keep you on your toes till the very last word. Well, Herbie Hunter as a series could be 3 books as a trilogy, plus 1, which is a spin-off, or it could be 12 or more. The beauty of the Herbie Hunter series is that it could be never ending. And it's not called The Last Generation for nothing, because it explains exactly what is happening in the end times of this world and what we're all facing. And there are those that choose to understand, very few of them, and there are the majority who choose to stick their heads in the sand and not see what is happening and not know what to do. And Herbie Hunter is ultimately about the redemption of humankind, not just of Herbie Hunter and his friends and family, but it's the redemption of mankind. And do we understand what that redemption means and what it will bring? I don't think anybody truly understands until they start reading the series. The Herbie Hunter series and all my other Generation Z books will be found on my website, MHHW.com, and keep an eye out for the release dates on all social media platforms.